Before I answer to all honourable members' questions, let me place on record about the Ministry, about Environment Ministry's vision and its program for this coming 2023 year. Also about the institution which are coming under us, that is GSMB and Central Environment Authority. So it is a privilege to have the opportunity to present to this House the environmental strategic vision and approach of the government, the progress made in the recent past and future directions and programs in the environment sector at this third reading of the budget 2023. The strategic approach, harnessing country's natural capital to assure sustainable economic prosperity to the people. At the outset, I wish to inform the House that the mandate of the Ministry of Environment is to transform the government policy and other sectoral policies related to the environment and to provide leadership for the priority task of policy making, implementation and enforcement, making public investments relating to environment sector and implementation of projects under the National Development Programme with the paramount objectives of creating a sustainable environment for all living beings within the territorial boundaries of Sri Lanka. The key feature in government's approach in dealing with the environment is to transform the country's natural capital that Sri Lanka is richly blessed with in such a way that it will assure economic prosperity to the people in a sustainable manner, while preserving and safeguarding the environment, biodiversity and the whole of our ecosystem. It is in that context that His Excellency the President, in his capacity as the Minister of Finance, has indicated in the Budget Speech 2023, environment-friendly green and blue economy as one of the three main economic approaches adopted by Sri Lanka to overcome the current economic challenges and move forward. Taking this broad vision forward, as the Minister in charge of Environment, I wish to state that Sri Lanka can be transformed to be an ecological superpower with a carefully carved out strategic approach which my ministry is now trying to provide leadership for. Sri Lanka's potential as an ecological superpower. Sri Lanka's potential transformation into an ecological superpower could be achieved by synergizing Sri Lanka's unrivaled geostrategic location and untapped ecological assets. This is in line with His Excellency the President Ranil Wickremesinghe's call to action for accelerated transformation and transition of the world not only to net zero, but also to nature positive economy to the G7 leaders prior to the upcoming G7 summit in Hiroshima, Japan in May 2023. I urge my fellow parliamentarians and President Ranil Wickremesinghe to unite, galvanize and mobilize the entire nation with the transformative and unsinkable whole of government and whole of society, top to bottom concerns and fellowship in order to make Sri Lanka an ecological superpower. This is an attainable goal in the context of the emergence of the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, GFANZ, which is the world's largest coalition of financial institutions, committed to transitioning the global economy to net zero greenhouse gas emissions with combined assets under management in excess of $130 trillion. A carefully developed program, intervention, focusing sustainable harnessing of Sri Lanka's ecological assets will be an ideal candidate for green and conservation finance with innovative features like swaps of debts for investments, and will potentially not only resolve Sri Lanka's debt crisis in the fastest possible time, but will generate high-level net foreign currency income annually. Developments in the policy background, presiding member, honorable presiding member, in terms of a tangible achievements and progress made in the area of developments of environment policies and regulations, I must inform the House that after 19 years of the introduction of the National Environment Policy and Strategies in the year 2003, the updated NEP was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers on 20th June this year and will be published soon. Also, as the Cabinet has shown the urgent need to prepare an appropriate policy framework and action plan for the implementation of the National Environment Policy. The Ministry of Environment has prepared the National Environmental Action Plan in line with the United Nations Sustainable Development Plan. I am also glad to state that the national guidelines for the restoration of Sri Lanka's mangrove ecosystems and the National Strategic Plan for the conservation and for the sustainable use of Sri Lanka's mangrove system were abandoned during the year. In addition, the National Policy on Environmental Sensitive Areas, which I presented to the Cabinet, has also now been approved. Global climate change lobby and opportunities for Sri Lanka. Even though we remain as country with the lowest greenhouse gas emissions, unfortunately we are also majorly affected by climate change due to our strategic location. Under any circumstances, we cannot underestimate the negative impact of climate change at all, as its impact on our economy is not negligible. Therefore, we have to work to protect our people and food crops from the negative effect of climate change. The 27th Conference of Parties, COP27, of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, was held in Egypt last month. His Excellency the President led the high-level country delegation to the summit and delivered a valuable speech at the meeting of world leaders. The overall outcome of the summit is discouraging, as His Excellency the President has commented on recently, and there is a lot of doubts about the seriousness on the part of some of the developed and industrial countries. However, one positive outcome of the summit was the decision to establish a global fund for loss and damage caused by climate-induced disasters. In this context, I would like to share with you some of the alarming facts and figures that concerns all of us in Sri Lanka. According to Global Climate Risk Index, Report 2021, Sri Lanka ranks 30th among the countries most affected by extreme weather events in 2019. The World Bank says that 87% of Sri Lanka's population lives in moderate or severe hotspots. The ADB reveals that by 2050, the potential impacts of climate change would lead to approximately 1.2% loss of annual GDP. The Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery 2016 report reveals that $380 million worth losses being incurred each year from climate-induced hydrometeorological disasters. In more specific references to climate-induced disasters in Sri Lanka, the damages and losses caused by flood in May 2016 cost the country approximately $660 million, whereas the damages and losses caused by floods in May 2017 was estimated to be $478 million, with 212 deaths and 78 persons missing. I hope we all understand what the climate impact could bring the disaster in Sri Lanka. This is just two floods. caused these damages. It is in that context that we should harness promising opportunities for Sri Lanka in the context of these global developments. As a climate vulnerable country, we must prepare well in advance to tap the proposed loss and damage compensation fund. Since there is no proper mechanism in place to estimate the value of lives and properties lost to Sri Lanka due to climate-induced disasters, we are unable to put forward proper claims and therefore cannot make a definite statement about such claims. We need to get the relevant laws and mechanism in place as a matter of urgency. Another progressive suggestion made at the COP27 is to double the amount of funds allocated for adaptation. This is another area of opportunities coming in our way. In response to this, my ministry has already started working on submission of proposals and programs to scale up some of the projects and programs and also to replicate similar projects in new geographical areas. We are looking at scaling up and replicating projects in areas such as air resources management, including e-mobility and e-transportation projects, biodiversity, including mangroves preservation and restoration, and of course, climate change mitigation and adaptation. These projects will attract grant funding in the range of few $100 million. The Ministry of Environment acts as the environment institution of the Green Climate Fund, about which I would like to give you a summary of the works we have performed. Currently, 2 national level projects and 3 regional level projects have been approved by the fund. Preservation of natural resources. Although natural resources of Sri Lanka have contributed to the sustainable existence of the people for many millennia, these natural resources have been depleting rapidly for several decades. The causes for this unfortunate situation include deforestation, soil erosion, deposition of silt in reservoirs, destruction of natural wetlands, and destruction of biodiversity, etc. Due to the clearing of forest for other land uses, the productivity of the total area of the island has decreased or it is at risk of decreasing. To prevent land degradation, the ministry has prepared the National Action Plan for Prevention of Land Degradation 2015 to 2014. Sri Lanka's biodiversity has been highlighted globally, and it has been declared as one of the 36 world biodiversity hotspots. I must emphasize with all these things that protecting the environment is everyone's job. It is not only the Ministry of Environment. All government institutions are required to cooperate with the Ministry of Environment to preserve, safeguard, and sustainably develop the environment in which we all live. Commercial value addition and industrial usage.
Honorable Minister, you have 4 more minutes.
4 more minutes.
Yes.
The GSMB is only institute that have mapped all the mineral resources in Sri Lanka, and the Technical Services Private Limited are 2 institutions belonging to our ministry. By now, we have completed the classification of mineral resources of Sri Lanka. One is the mineral resources that can bring in foreign exchange, and the other is the mineral resources that local industries need. However, there is no proper assessment to calculate the volume and value of the identified mineral pits in the country. So, value of those minerals are not reflected in gross domestic production of the country. The Central Environment Authority is also an important institution under our ministry. as the main national institute that implements the National Environment Act of 1980 while acting for protection, regulation, coordination, and as an advisory institution related to the environment. Implementation of School Environment Pioneer Program and Environmental Educational Awareness Program and follow-up activities of water condition, monitoring activities of the quality of the air, as well as 24-hour environmental complaints are also carried out by the Central Environment Authority. Further, efforts are being made to reduce the impact of single-use plastic on the environment from year 2021. Honorable Presiding Member, there are more services being carried out by our ministry. Sri Lanka Climate Fund Private Limited is another institute operates under our ministry, which has been established to assist Sri Lankans to move towards a low carbon and climate resilient blue and green development. Therefore, the institute, through this institute, many sustainable environmental advisory projects are implemented, such as greenhouse gas verification, Sri Lanka carbon credit scheme, clean development mechanism, and energy audit. On behalf of the Ministry of Environment, an amount of rupees 2,223 million has been allocated by the budget 2023. Out of that, rupees 1,564 million as recurring expenses and rupees 659 million as capital expenditure have been allocated. As rupees 399 million out of this capital expenditure received as foreign aid to Sri Lanka. As a climate vulnerable country, Sri Lanka needs to make
Honorable Minister, 1 more minute. You have 1 more minute.
Provisions on climate change issues in line with the latest recommendations of the World Bank Group, which says that investing an average of 1.4% of GDP annually could reduce emissions in developing countries by as much as 70% by 2050 and boost resilience. However, for allocating an amount of rupees 2,223 million on behalf of our ministry under difficult budgetary context when the country is undergoing an economic crisis, I would like to express my heartiest gratitude to His Excellency the President as the Minister of Finance. Before I conclude, let me answer some of the questions raised by our honorable member. Of course, the GSMB DG, we have already issued charge sheet and the action is in progress. So
Honorable Minister, already your time is up.
Yes,
please conclude
I have to give I have to answer some of the questions raised by the honorable members. Okay, in short, to cut short.
Yeah.
So that is in progress. Likewise, this chairman issue with regard to Shafinagar, the complaints have been made to CID and Auditor General Department also doing the, evaluating the whole thing, and the report will be submitted. So once that is done, the necessary action will be taken as per the advice of all those all those officers given. So therefore, likewise, various the members who have raised, honorable members who have given, some of them have given advice, some of them criticized, some of them have, gave opinion, expressed opinion. All those will be taken into consideration, and to maybe in the coming future, I will be able to answer all of their questions.
Please wind up.
And ensure the Environment Ministry run in the right direction. I appeal to this House, give me a chance to clean up this entire institutions. I know the institution is corrupt. There are so many corruptions going on. Give me a chance and I will clean up this institution.
Please.
And ensure these institutions bring revenue to the country. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Honorable